Be me, successful corporate lawyer at 31. Just closed another case where I tore apart some mediocre male attorney who thought he could intimidate me with his height and loud voice. Celebrating with wine at home, alone, exactly how I like it. No man's opinion needed, no compromise required, no emotional labor wasted. Remember what my opposing counsel said after the settlement. You're really something else. Yeah, I am. And you can't handle it, can you? None of them can handle a woman who doesn't need them, doesn't want their approval, doesn't shrink herself to make them comfortable. That's the real problem with men in this world. They literally cannot psychologically tolerate a woman who's genuinely independent. Their egos are so fragile that a woman with her own money, her own home, her own life makes them feel obsolete. And instead of growing up and dealing with it, they lash out, make us feel like we're the problem, call us difficult, aggressive, intimidating. I see through it all. Monday morning, back at the firm, partner meeting about new case assignments. Notice Robert from Family Law looking exhausted again. Third week in a row, he's shown up with dark circles, hands shaking slightly when he holds his coffee. Typical male inability to handle stress. Women deal with exhaustion all the time, and we don't fall apart. We just push through because we have to. Men get a little pressure, and suddenly, it's a crisis. Make a mental note that he's probably angling for sympathy. The meeting continues, and I get assigned a corporate merger case. Exactly what I wanted. High stakes, complex negotiations, the kind of thing that would make weaker lawyers crumble. After the meeting, I'm walking to my office when I pass Robert's door. It's slightly open, and I hear him on the phone. His voice is strained, almost breaking. Please, I just want to see them on Wednesday, too. I'm their father. Pause. That's not fair. I've never missed a payment. Not once. Another pause. Longer. You can't just decide that. We have a custody agreement. I keep walking. Divorce drama. Probably his own fault. Men always think they're entitled to everything even after they mess up their marriages. Probably cheated or neglected his family for his career. Now he wants to play the victim. Typical. That afternoon, I have lunch with my college friend Michelle. She's talking about her new boyfriend, practically glowing. I'm trying to be happy for her, but internally I'm cringing. She's so smart, has a PhD in biochemistry, runs her own research team. Why does she need male validation? He's really supportive of my work, she's saying. I nod, spooning my salad. That's great, Michelle. You should try dating again, she suggests, not for the first time. I'm perfectly content alone, I reply. I don't need a man to complete me or whatever fantasy we're sold. I know you don't need one, but maybe you'd enjoy. Michelle, I've tried. Every man I've dated has been intimidated by my success. They say they want an equal partner, but what they really want is someone who makes less, achieves less, needs them more. The moment they realize I'm doing fine without them, they can't handle it. She looks like she wants to argue, but doesn't. She's too kind to say what she's probably thinking, that I'm too harsh, too judgmental, too unwilling to be vulnerable. But vulnerability is just another word for weakness, and I didn't claw my way to partner track by being weak. Wednesday evening, working late as usual. Most of the office is cleared out. I'm reviewing contracts when I hear something from down the hall. Sounds like someone's in distress. I get up, irritated that my concentration is broken. Follow the sound to Robert's office. His door is closed now, but I can hear muffled sounds. Is he crying? Jesus Christ. I should just go back to my office. Not my problem if he can't keep his personal life separate from work. But something makes me hesitate. Maybe it's liability concerns. If something happens to him here, the firm could face issues. I knock. Robert, you okay in there? The sounds stop abruptly. Fine, he calls out, voice rough. Just working late. I should leave it at that. But my lawyer brain kicks in. Do you need anything? Water? Pause. No, thank you. I go back to my office, but I can't focus anymore. Men and their emotional incompetence. If he's having problems, he should see a therapist like an adult, not break down at the office where people can hear. Though I guess at least he waited until most people left. Small mercies. Thursday morning, meeting with a client. Middle-aged man who owns a chain of hardware stores. Wants advice on a contract dispute with a supplier. He's clearly uncomfortable with me from the start. Keeps directing questions to my male paralegal instead of me. I've seen this 1,000 times. Mr. Patterson, I'm your attorney, I say firmly. James is here to take notes, but you're speaking with me. He shifts in his seat. Right, yes, of course. But he still won't make eye contact. After the meeting, I vent to my paralegal. He couldn't handle that his lawyer is a woman, probably expected some old guy in a suit. Did you see how uncomfortable he was? James, to his credit, is diplomatic. He seemed nervous in general. Some clients aren't used to lawyers, period. No, this was different, I insist. This was specifically about me being a woman who knows more than him. They hate that. They absolutely hate when a woman is the authority in the room. James doesn't argue, but I can see he doesn't fully agree. He's young, idealistic, probably thinks sexism isn't that prevalent anymore. He'll learn. That evening, I'm at the gym, one of the few places I actually enjoy, despite having to deal with men taking up too much space. I'm on the treadmill when I notice a guy on the weight bench. He's been sitting there for 15 minutes, not lifting, just staring at his phone. Finally, he gets up and leaves the gym entirely. Didn't even work out. Must be nice to have so little actual stress that you can waste time like that. Women don't have that luxury. We're managing careers, households, our health, emotional labor for everyone around us. Men just exist and expect applause. Friday, end of the week. I'm exhausted, but in a good way. Won a major motion in court today. The opposing counsel, another man, tried to talk over me during arguments. The judge, thankfully a woman, shut him down. Afterwards in the hallway, he approached me. Good work in there, he said. Sounded almost surprised. Thanks, I replied coolly. Didn't offer anything more. He lingered like he wanted to continue the conversation. Probably wanted to network, make connections, use me as a stepping stone. I've got another appointment, I lied. Of course, he said, and I could see it. That flash of annoyance, that micro-expression that said he wasn't used to being dismissed by a woman. They really can't handle it. Can't handle when we don't perform the expected social niceties, when we don't smile and nod and make them feel important. Weekend, grocery shopping. I'm in the checkout line when I notice the cashier. Young guy, maybe early 20s. He's scanning items mechanically, not making eye contact with anyone. Looks completely dead inside. When it's my turn, I observe him more closely. There's a bruise on his forearm, fading yellow-green. His name tag says, Derek. He scans my items without a word. How are you today? I ask, more out of habit than genuine interest. Fine, he mumbles. Clearly not fine, but whatever. Probably hungover or upset about some video game. Young men and their complete lack of resilience. The following week brings a new case, sexual harassment suit representing the plaintiff, a woman who was consistently overlooked for promotions while less qualified men advanced. This is exactly the kind of work that reminds me why I do what I do. Meeting with her, hearing her story, I feel that familiar anger rising, the righteous kind. She did everything right, worked harder, stayed later, never complained. And still, the men around her got rewarded while she got told to be patient. We're going to make them pay, I tell her, not just financially, but publicly. I want everyone to know what they did. She looks relieved, like she's finally been heard. This is what justice looks like, holding powerful men accountable for their actions. During discovery, I'm reviewing documents, emails from the company's management. One thread catches my eye. It's about employee wellness programs. Mentions that male employees have been reluctant to use mental health resources. One manager writes, "The guys won't come to the counseling sessions even when we make them available." Another responds, "Can't force them to take care of themselves." I scoff at my desk. Of course they won't use resources. Men would rather suffer in silence than admit they need help. It's not a mental health access problem, it's a masculinity problem. They create their own issues with their fragile egos. That same week, my building's superintendent, Marcus, knocks on my door. He's there to fix my radiator that's been making noise. "Thanks for coming," I say, letting him in. He's always been professional, quiet, does his job well. While he's working, I'm in the kitchen making coffee. His toolbox is open on my floor, and I notice something. A photograph tucked inside the lid. 2 kids, young, maybe 6 and 8. Marcus catches me looking. "My daughters," he says quietly. "They're beautiful," I respond, "because that's what you say." He just nods and returns to the radiator. Something about his expression, though. There's pain there, deep and raw. But I don't pry. His personal life isn't my business. He finishes the repair and leaves. Month progresses. Sexual harassment case is building momentum. We're getting media attention. The company is scrambling, trying to settle. But my client wants her day in court. I respect that. During a deposition, I'm questioning one of the male executives. He's sweating, uncomfortable, clearly coached by his lawyers. "Isn't it true that you approved Mr. Thompson's promotion despite his having less seniority than my client?" "That was based on merit," he insists. "Merit?" Mr. Thompson had 3 complaints about his work quality that year alone. My client had 0. The promotion was about leadership potential. Leadership potential, I repeat, letting the words hang. "And what did you see in Mr. Thompson that demonstrated this potential that you didn't see in Mrs. Rivera?" He fumbles, can't articulate it. "Because there is no real answer, just bias, unconscious or otherwise. This is what I'm good at." Exposing the lies men tell themselves to justify keeping women down. Afterwards, my co-counsel, an older woman named Patricia, pulls me aside. "You're doing great work on this," she says. "But remember, the deposition is also about getting information, not just making them uncomfortable." "I know," I reply, slightly defensive. "I'm just making sure the record is clear." "It is clear," she agrees. "Just pace yourself. We have a long way to go." I know she's right, but part of me doesn't want to pace myself. I want to demolish them now, make them feel the way my client felt. Powerless, scrutinized, found wanting. That evening, I'm at a work function. Firm holiday party, even though it's only November. I usually skip these, but Patricia convinced me to come. "You need to be visible," she said. "Partnership decisions aren't just about billable hours." So here I am, nursing a gin and tonic, making small talk. Robert from Family Law is here too. He looks worse than before, if possible. Lost weight. His suit hangs looser. He's standing alone near the window. I consider going over, then decide against it. Not my responsibility to manage his feelings. Instead, I talk to some associates, discuss cases, perform the networking dance. Later, I'm in the bathroom when I overhear 2 secretaries talking. "Did you hear about Robert?" "No. What?" "His ex-wife is moving to California, taking the kids." "Oh my God, can she do that?" Apparently the judge approved it. She got a job offer and argued it was better for the children financially. That's awful. He'll barely get to see them. I know, he's devastated. They leave, and I'm alone in the bathroom. I think about Robert's phone call weeks ago, his exhaustion, his breakdown at the office. He's losing his children, not through any fault of his own, just losing them. There's something uncomfortable about that thought, but I push it away. Custody courts favor mothers for a reason. Women are typically the primary caregivers. It's not sexism when there's a logical basis. December arrives, weather gets colder. I'm working on the harassment case constantly, barely sleeping, running on coffee and adrenaline. My client is getting nervous about going to trial. The company is offering a substantial settlement now. What do you want to do? I ask her. I don't know, she admits. Part of me wants to make them admit what they did publicly, but another part of me just wants to move on. The settlement would let you do that, I say carefully. You'd have financial security, you could work somewhere that values you, but you'd be signing an NDA? She looks torn. What would you do? She asks. I think about it. I'd burn them to the ground, I say honestly. But I'm not you, and you're the one who has to live with the decision. She takes the settlement, and I'm disappointed, but I understand. The system is designed to make fighting too exhausting, to make silence seem like the easier path. The week before Christmas, I'm doing my usual evening run. Same route I always take through the park. It's dark early now, but I refuse to change my habits because of fear. I'm not going to let the world make me smaller. Halfway through, I notice someone sitting on a bench ahead. It's cold, nearly freezing, and they're just sitting there. As I get closer, I recognize the posture. Derek, the grocery store cashier. I slow down, something making me stop. Derek? I call out. He looks up, clearly doesn't recognize me. From the grocery store, I clarify. Do you need help? He shakes his head. Just sitting. It's freezing out here. I know. His voice is flat, emotionless. Alarm bells start ringing in my head. Do you have somewhere to go? I ask. Yeah, he says. Eventually. I should keep running. This isn't my problem. But something about the way he's sitting there, the deadness in his eyes. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks away, I hear myself say. Let me buy you something warm. He looks at me for a long moment. Why? Because you look like you need it. To my surprise, he gets up and follows me. We sit in the coffee shop, him with a hot chocolate I insisted on buying, me with nothing because I'm still trying to figure out why I'm here. Bad day? I finally ask. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Bad year. Want to talk about it? Not really, he says. Then after a pause, I got evicted. I'm sorry, I say, and mean it. Yeah, well, he shrugs. Shit happens. Do you have family you can stay with? Dad died 3 years ago, he says matter-of-factly. Mom's in a nursing home, early onset Alzheimer's. I've got a sister in Portland, but she's got her own problems. Jesus. This kid can't be more than 22, and he's dealing with all this alone. What about friends? I press. Yeah, another humorless laugh. Guys don't really do that, you know? Like, we hang out, play games online, whatever. But actually talking about real stuff, about feeling like you're drowning? He shakes his head. That's not really an option. Why not? I ask, genuinely curious. He looks at me like I'm stupid. Because that's not what men do. We're supposed to figure it out, handle our business, not complain. The moment you start talking about struggling, people lose respect for you. That's not true, I start to say, but he cuts me off. It is, though. Last job I had, I asked my manager if I could adjust my hours to visit my mom more. He said yes, but after that, I never got put on the good shifts again. Got passed over for a promotion I was promised. When I asked why, he said they needed someone more committed. I want to argue, but something stops me. There's truth in what he's saying, even if I don't want to acknowledge it. What about the bruise? I ask, nodding to his arm where I'd seen it weeks ago. He pulls his sleeve down reflexively. Nothing. Derek. He's quiet for a moment. My ex-girlfriend, he finally says, she has some anger issues. When we broke up, she didn't take it well. The implication hangs in the air. Did you report it? He actually laughs at that. Report what? That my girlfriend hit me? Yeah, because that would go over great. Everyone would either laugh or assume I deserved it. Besides, what are they going to do? She's 5'4" and 110 pounds. It doesn't matter what she weighs, I say. Abuse is abuse. Even as I say it, I realize I don't know if I believe it, or rather, I believe it intellectually, but emotionally. I'm struggling with the image of this young man as a victim. Sure, he says, clearly not believing that I believe it. We sit in silence for a few minutes. I called a hotline once, he says suddenly, a crisis hotline when things got really bad. What did they say? The woman who answered was nice at first. Then I mentioned I was a guy, and I could hear her tone change. She gave me a different number to call, said they specialized in men's issues. I called it, got a voicemail, left a message. Never got a call back. I don't know what to say to that. Part of me wants to defend the system, explain that resources are limited, but sitting across from this clearly struggling young man, those defenses feel hollow. We talk for another hour. He tells me about working 3 jobs to pay for his mom's care, about how his roommate kicked him out with 2 weeks' notice, about dropping out of community college because he couldn't afford both tuition and his mom's medication, about the constant, grinding exhaustion of trying to survive, about feeling invisible, like no one would care if he just disappeared. When we finally leave the coffee shop, I give him money for a motel room. He's reluctant to take it, but eventually does. Why are you helping me? He asks again. I don't have a good answer. Because someone should, I finally say. Walking home, I feel unsettled. His story doesn't fit the narrative I've constructed. Men as privileged, as having it easier, as being unable to handle strong women. Derek isn't threatened by independent women. He's just trying to survive. But he's an exception, I tell myself, an outlier. Most men don't face what he's facing. Christmas week, the firm is mostly empty. I'm catching up on paperwork. Robert's office door is open and I can see he's packing. Boxes on his desk, pictures coming down from walls. Robert? I stop at his doorway. He looks up and I barely recognize him. The exhaustion has become something else. Defeat, maybe. Hey, he says, are you leaving the firm? End of the year, he confirms, moving to California. Oh, I say, remembering what the secretary said. To be near your kids. He nods. My ex-wife moved there with them in October. I've seen them twice since then. Video calls every night, but it's not the same. So I'm transferring to our LA office. I step into his office. That's good though, right? You'll get to see them more. He sits down heavily in his chair. I'll see them every other weekend and 1 night a week for dinner. That's what the custody agreement says. I used to see them every day, tuck them in every night. Now I'm the weekend dad, the divorced dad who tries too hard and gives too many treats. His voice cracks. I'm sorry, I say inadequately. You know the worst part? He continues. I was a good father. I am a good father. I never missed a soccer game, a parent-teacher conference, a school play. When my daughter had nightmares, she came to my side of the bed. I did everything right. And the judge still said it was in the children's best interest to go with their mother. Because she's the mother, and that's what courts do. They assume mothers are more important, that fathers are secondary. I want to argue, to say that's not true. But is it not true? My lawyer told me I should be grateful, Robert continues, that some fathers don't even get that much. That the system is changing but slowly. Grateful that I get to be a visitor in my children's lives. He's not crying, but his eyes are wet. I thought about... He starts, then stops. About what? I prompt gently. Ending it, he says quietly. After the judge's ruling, I sat in my car in the parking garage for 3 hours, just thinking about how much easier it would be. No more fighting, no more losing, no more being treated like I'm dangerous just for being a father who wants his kids. My stomach drops. But you didn't, I say. No, he agrees, because then they'd really grow up without a father. And because I kept thinking about this statistic I read, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than women. And nobody talks about it. It's like we're just expected to handle it, to be strong, to not need help. And when we can't handle it, when we break, it's seen as weakness. He looks at me directly. I tried joining a father's rights group, Thought maybe I could find support there, guys going through the same thing. And you know what happened? I got called a misogynist. Someone saw the flyer in my bag at a coffee shop and told me I was part of the problem. That men's rights groups are just covers for hating women. Maybe some are, he continues, but I just wanted to talk to someone who understood what it feels like to lose your children through a system that sees you as less important. I don't know what to say. Every instinct I have is screaming that this is an exaggeration, that the courts are fair, that they consider both parents equally. But the man in front of me is living proof otherwise. Robert, I finally manage, I don't know what to say except I'm sorry. And I'm glad you're still here. He gives me a sad smile. Thanks. For what it's worth, you're a good lawyer. The firm will miss you. After I leave his office, I can't focus on work. I keep thinking about what he said, about the assumption that mothers are more important. I've never questioned that before. Never thought about fathers who want custody but can't get it. Never considered that the system might be biased against men in this area. I've always seen bias as flowing one direction, toward men, benefiting men. But Robert's experience doesn't fit that model. New Year's Eve, I'm alone as always. I prefer it this way, or so I tell myself. No obligations, no forced fun, no performing happiness. I'm reviewing the year, thinking about cases won and lost. My phone rings. It's Marcus, the building super. Sorry to bother you, he says. I know it's late. No problem. What's up? The heat in the building is out, he explains. Working on fixing it, but it might take a few hours. Just wanted to let you know. Okay, thanks for the heads up. I'm about to hang up when I hear something in the background, a child's voice asking a question. Sorry, Marcus says. My daughters, they're here this week. I remember the photo in his toolbox. No problem, I say. Let me know if you need anything. After we hang up, curiosity gets the better of me. I've lived in this building for 4 years and barely know anything about Marcus. He's always been professional, polite, nearly invisible, the way good building supers are. An hour later, there's a knock on my door. It's Marcus, looking apologetic. Heat's fixed, he says. Just wanted to check that your radiators are working. I invite him in to check. While he's testing them, I notice he looks exhausted. There's a coffee stain on his shirt. His hands are cut up from the repair work. Your daughter is doing okay in the cold? I ask. He glances at me, surprised by the question. Yeah, they're tough kids. Got them bundled up like little marshmallows. He smiles when he says it, a real smile. How old are they again? 7 and 9 now. Growing up too fast. There's sadness in his voice. You don't get to see them often? I ask, treading carefully. He's quiet for a moment, still working on the radiator. Every other weekend and Wednesday nights, he finally says. Their mother and I divorced 3 years ago. She got primary custody. Another one. I wanted 50-50, he continues. I work in this building. I live in the basement apartment. I could have them half the time, take them to school, pick them up. But my ex argued that her schedule was more stable. She works 9 to 5 at an office. I work irregular hours, emergencies come up. Judge agreed with her. He stands up, wipes his hands on his pants. Heat should be good now. "Marcus," I say, stopping him, "can I ask you something?" He nods. "Do you feel like the system was fair to you in the custody arrangement?" He looks at me for a long moment. "You want the honest answer?" "Yes." "No," he says. "I don't think it was fair. I think the judge saw a mother with a stable office job and a father who fixes toilets and responds to emergencies at midnight. And she decided which parent was more important based on that. Never mind that I've never missed a day with my daughters when I have them. Never mind that I know their teachers' names, their favorite foods, which one needs a nightlight and which one likes the door cracked open. I'm the dad, so I get every other weekend." He pauses. "You know what my oldest asked me last month? She asked why she couldn't live with me. Said she missed me, missed our apartment, missed our neighborhood, and I had to explain that it's not up to me. That a judge decided what's best for her. How do you explain to a 9-year-old that the system thinks her father is less important?" My chest feels tight. "I'm sorry," I say. "That's terrible." He shrugs. "It is what it is. I've got friends who have it worse. Guys who only get supervised visitation because their ex made accusations. Guys who pay child support for kids they never see. At least I get my girls sometimes." After he leaves, I pour myself a glass of wine, sit by the window watching the city prepare for midnight, thinking about Marcus, about Robert, about Derek, about all the ways their stories don't align with what I've believed. But these are just individual cases, I tell myself. Anecdotes, not data. The broader pattern still holds. Men still have structural advantages, still hold more power, still benefit from a system designed for them. Don't they? I spend New Year's Day doing something I've never done before, actually researching men's issues with an open mind, not to debunk them, not to find counter-arguments, just to understand. The statistics are staggering. Men account for 75% of suicides. Men are 97% of combat deaths. Men lose custody battles at significantly higher rates. Men receive 63% longer sentences for the same crimes. Men are falling behind in education at every level. Men are more likely to be homeless, to be victims of violent crime, to die on the job. Men are defaulted to aggressors in domestic violence situations, even when they're the victims. Male victims of sexual assault are often not taken seriously. Boys are diagnosed with behavioral disorders and medicated at alarming rates. Men have virtually no reproductive rights after conception. Male mental health resources are severely lacking. There are more shelters for animals than for male domestic violence victims. Every statistic feels like a punch to the gut, not because they're surprising in isolation, but because I've never considered them collectively, never thought about what it means that society is failing men in these specific, measurable ways. I think about all the times I've dismissed male complaints, called them fragile, said they couldn't handle strong women, viewed their struggles through a lens of privilege and power, assumed that any difficulty they faced was either their own fault or trivial compared to women's issues. I think about my client, the woman I represented in the harassment case. Her struggle was real, her pain was valid, the discrimination she faced was wrong. But does acknowledging men's struggles diminish that? Or have I been operating under the assumption that empathy is a zero-sum game? That recognizing men's pain somehow takes away from women's pain? Monday, back at work. I see everything differently now. The male associates working late, trying to prove themselves. Are they doing it because they're privileged or because they're terrified of being seen as expendable? The senior partner who never talks about his family? Is that because he's a workaholic? Or because he's learned that showing vulnerability is professional suicide? The young lawyer who got passed over for a case after taking paternity leave. I remember thinking he should have known better, that taking time off would signal he wasn't serious. But why did I think that? Why did I accept that parenthood is a liability for fathers, but a protected status for mothers? I find myself in Patricia's office. Can I ask you something? I begin. Of course. Do you think the legal system is biased against men in custody cases? She looks surprised by the question. That's a complex issue, she says carefully. I'm seeing patterns, I continue. Men who want custody, but can't get it. Fathers who are assumed to be less important parents. Is that real, or am I seeing things that aren't there? Patricia considers this. It's real, she finally says. The family court system has overcorrected in some ways. There was a time when fathers always got custody because they had the money and power. Now the pendulum has swung the other way. Mothers are often favored, especially with young children. The assumption is that children need their mothers more. But that's sexist, I say, against both parents. Patricia nods. Yes, it is. It assumes mothers are natural caregivers and fathers are optional. It's harmful to everyone. Why don't we talk about this more? I ask. Why isn't this considered a feminist issue? Because feminism is about women, Patricia says gently, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's in the name. But somewhere along the way, some of us forgot that equality means equality. That you can't tear down harmful gender roles for one sex and maintain them for the other. Telling men they can't be vulnerable, can't be primary parents, can't be victims. That's the same patriarchal thinking that harms women. I feel something cracking inside me. All my certainty, all my anger, all my righteous conviction. It's not that it was all wrong. Women do face discrimination, harassment, bias. I've experienced it, I've fought it, I'll continue to fight it. But I've been so focused on that fight that I've been blind to the other side, to the men who are also trapped by gender roles, who are also suffering under the same system, just in different ways. That week, I do something I never thought I'd do. I reach out to Robert before he leaves for California, ask if he'd be willing to talk about his custody experience. He's surprised but agrees. We meet for coffee. I want to understand, I tell him, what it's like from your perspective. Why, he asks, not hostile, just curious. Because I think I've been wrong, I admit, about a lot of things. He tells me everything, the full story, not just the summary, about how he and his ex-wife had been equal parents during their marriage, how he'd reduced his hours at the firm to be more present, how when they divorced, he assumed they'd continue co-parenting, how his lawyer told him to be realistic, that judges favor mothers and fighting for equal custody would be expensive and likely unsuccessful, how he fought anyway and lost, how the custody evaluator spent an hour with him and 3 hours with his ex-wife, how every decision he made was scrutinized while hers were assumed to be correct, how when he got emotional in court, it was seen as instability, how he was told he should be grateful for what he got. The thing that kills me, he says, is that everyone acts like this is normal. Like fathers are supposed to be okay with being part-time parents. Like wanting to raise your own children is somehow suspicious if you're a man. There's this assumption that I must have done something wrong. That if I was a good father, if I was safe, the mother wouldn't have fought so hard to keep them from me. But I didn't do anything wrong. I just had the bad luck to be born male in a system that assumes men are less important as parents. I listen, really listen, not planning my response or my defense, just hearing him. I'm sorry, I say when he's done. For what? For not seeing this before? For being part of the problem? He looks at me curiously. What do you mean? I've spent years believing that men can't handle independent women. That male fragility is the biggest problem in gender relations. I've looked at men's struggles and dismissed them as weakness or irrelevant compared to women's issues. But you're not fragile because you wanted your children. You're not weak because you broke down under the pressure of losing them. You're human. And the system failed you in a way it's designed to fail men. Robert is quiet for a moment. Thank you for saying that. I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is, how isolating. I tried talking to friends about what I was going through. The women in my life told me to be grateful I didn't have full custody, that raising kids is exhausting. The men in my life told me to move on, find a new relationship, focus on work. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that I was grieving, that I'd lost something precious. We talk for 2 more hours. He tells me about the fathers groups he found online, how they were his lifeline, but how he had to keep it secret, how admitting he was part of such a group would get him labeled as bitter or misogynistic, how men's pain is only acceptable if it's silent, how asking for help is seen as weakness, how the message sent to boys from birth is that their feelings don't matter, their pain is less important, their struggles are either their own fault or something to overcome alone. After we part ways, I walk through the city, really observing for the first time the homeless population overwhelmingly male, the construction workers doing dangerous jobs, all men, the garbage collectors, the road workers, the men doing the jobs nobody wants. I think about how I've walked past them for years, never once considering that maybe they didn't choose these paths, that maybe economic pressure, lack of other options, or societal expectations put them there. I think about how I've benefited from their labor while simultaneously holding them in contempt, assuming they were there because they were less ambitious, less intelligent, less capable, when the reality is they're there because someone has to be, and society has decided that someone should be men. I reach out to Derek, use the number he gave me that night at the coffee shop, ask how he's doing. Okay, he says, found a room to rent, picked up extra shifts. Still hanging in there. I wanted to apologize, I tell him. For what? For every time I've seen someone like you and made assumptions. Someone like me? Young men who are struggling. I've always assumed it was your own fault. That you weren't trying hard enough or were too entitled. But you're working 3 jobs to take care of your mother. You're doing everything you can, and it's still not enough. And instead of acknowledging how impossible the situation is, society tells you to man up. He's quiet on the other end. Yeah, he finally says. Pretty much. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why do you think nobody talks about this stuff? Like everyone knows it's happening. But it's like there's this agreement to just not mention it. I think about his question. I say slowly, it's because acknowledging men's struggles feels threatening to some people. Like if we admit men are suffering, we have to give something up. Resources, attention, sympathy. Like it's a competition and there's only so much help to go around. Is it though? He asks. A competition? No, I say, finally understanding. It's not. Helping men doesn't hurt women. Acknowledging your pain doesn't diminish anyone else's. We've just been taught to think that way. The following weeks, I start seeing everything through a new lens. A male coworker mentions he's nervous about a performance review. Instead of assuming he's not pulling his weight, I recognize the pressure, the expectation that men must always be succeeding, always be competent, the lack of permission to be human, to have off days, to need support. A friend complains about her ex-husband. Instead of automatically siding with her, I ask questions. Find out he's fighting for more custody time, that he's been paying for a lawyer he can't afford, that he just wants to be a father to his kids. I watch a news story about a male teacher accused of inappropriate behavior. He's suspended immediately, investigated, his name and face plastered everywhere. The accusation turns out to be false, but the damage is done. His career is over, his reputation destroyed. There's no apology, no restoration, just an assumption that where there's smoke, there's fire. And men are always potential fires waiting to happen. I think about all the ways I've contributed to this. Every time I've clutched my keys walking past a man at night, treating every man as a potential threat. Every time I've rolled my eyes at men's issues, dismissed their pain as fragility or overreaction. Every time I've assumed incompetence or malice, simply because someone was male. I think about how I've demanded men respect women's experiences, believe women, listen to women, center women, all correct demands. But I've never extended the same courtesy in return, never believed men, never truly listened to men, never centered their experiences as equally valid. I start speaking up differently at work. When someone makes a joke about men being useless parents, I mention Robert, the devoted father who lost his children. When someone dismisses a male colleague's stress, I point out that men are dying by suicide at alarming rates, and maybe we should take mental health seriously for everyone. When someone suggests that men need to learn to handle strong women, I push back. Maybe the issue isn't that men can't handle us. Maybe the issue is more complex than that. Maybe we've created a paradigm where men's struggles are invisible, and we've mistaken their pain for fragility, their exhaustion for weakness, their humanity for inability to cope with our success. Some people are receptive. Others think I've lost my mind. Since when do you care about men's rights? One colleague asks almost accusingly. Since I realize that equality actually means equality, I respond, that you can't fight gender roles for women while enforcing them for men. That's not how it works. But men have privilege, she argues. Some men do, I agree. In some areas, absolutely. But not all men, and not in all areas. And even where privilege exists, it doesn't mean that person doesn't also struggle. It doesn't mean their pain isn't real. She's not convinced. I understand. I wouldn't have been convinced either a few months ago. Change is slow, especially when it requires acknowledging you've been wrong. March arrives. I get an email from Robert. He's settled in California, has an apartment near his kids' school, gets to pick them up once a week, has them every other weekend. It's not enough, he writes, but it's more than I had. Thank you for listening, for seeing me. You'd be surprised how rare that is, I write back. Thank you for being willing to share your story, for trusting me with it. I'm sorry it took me so long to listen. I get a text from Derek, a photo of him in a community college classroom. Enrolled part-time, the message says. Found some financial aid, gonna try again. I smile, text back congratulations, add that I'm proud of him. He responds with a simple, thanks. But I know it means something, that someone acknowledged his effort, saw his struggle as valid. I run into Marcus in the building lobby. His daughters are with him, backpacks on, heading to school. They're chattering about something, excited and happy. He looks tired but content. Morning, he says. Morning, I reply. They look happy. He smiles. Yeah, we had a good week. I'm glad. I mean it. Sitting in my apartment that evening, I reflect on the last few months, how everything has shifted. I'm still a feminist. Still believe in fighting for women's equality, women's rights, women's safety. Still believe sexism against women is real and harmful. But now I also see the other side. The ways men are trapped by gender roles. Expected to be strong, stoic, successful, providers, shamed for vulnerability, for emotion, for needing help. Disposable in ways we don't acknowledge. Struggling in ways we refuse to see. I think about my years of anger, my conviction that men couldn't handle independent women. The truth is more complicated. Some men genuinely are threatened by successful women. Sexism is real, and it has held women back. But I've been using that truth as a shield, as an excuse not to see men's humanity, not to acknowledge their struggles as equally valid. I've been so focused on my own independence, my own strength, my own refusal to need anyone, that I've mistaken men's exhaustion for fragility, their burdens for weakness, their humanity for an inability to handle me. The real revelation isn't that men have it worse than women. They don't, necessarily. It's not a competition. The revelation is that we're all trapped by expectations, by roles, by systems that hurt everyone, just in different ways. And liberation can't be achieved by freeing one group while keeping the other in chains, even if those chains look different, even if we've convinced ourselves they don't count as chains at all. I was wrong, not about everything. Women's struggles are real and ongoing, but I was wrong to be so blind to men's struggles, wrong to dismiss their pain as fragility, wrong to assume that independence meant isolation, wrong to think that needing no one made me strong. Real strength is seeing clearly, acknowledging complexity, extending empathy even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. I don't have all the answers now. I'm still figuring it out, still unlearning years of assumptions and anger, but I'm trying. Really trying to see men as fully human, as deserving of empathy, support, and acknowledgement, as trapped by the same patriarchal structures that hurt women, just in different ways. Trying to understand that men can't handle independent women was never the real issue. The issue was that we're all struggling, all suffering under impossible expectations, all deserving of compassion, and I was too angry to see it. Sitting here now, wine glass in hand, looking out at the city lights, I feel something I haven't felt in years, not triumph or vindication or righteous anger, but humility. And maybe, finally, the beginning of wisdom.